Now, sections of Ghanaians have consistently raised issues with illegal mining in the country, citing the Chinese as the worst culprit. But not until news of a standoff and reported gunshots at Amansia West did we know the magnitude of the problem. Now, as Minerals Commission strongly denies empowering the Chinese in the Amansia West to operate, PM Express tonight wants answers as to how this problem of illegal mining could be resolved. For a relationship that dates back almost 50 years, how do we work closely with the Chinese to maintain a mutually beneficial relationship and stamp our authority at the same time? But mining is not the only illegality the Chinese have been cited in. They are also purported to be dabbling in illegal trade. Are the Chinese taking Ghana for granted? You can join us on the show by short code 1760. Post your comments on our Facebook walls. Suggestions and opinions are all welcome on any of our Facebook portals. And tonight in the studio, I have with me to my immediate left, Mr. Kofi Tete, who is Assistant Manager of Small Scale Mining for the Minerals Commission of Ghana. And then next to him, I have Alhassan Atakweisen, who is the Programs Officer for Third World Network. And then next to him, I have Mr. Henry Yao Mallet, who is a Communications Director for the Ghana-China Friendship Association. We were also expecting to host Su Zhenyu, who is Operations Manager of Hansu Mining Company, but the owner of the company, Bernard Nchibosiako, pulled out, pleading short notice. So thanks for joining us on PM Express tonight. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, let me start with Mr. Yao Mallet. Why are the Chinese being cited in all manner of activities, the latest being the Amansia West standoff?
I would say it's too early to just mention that we are misplacing our emphasis. But I think we should rather look at what illegal mining is, and these are the experts in the field.
So you wouldn't say that the Chinese
it didn't start with the Chinese.
Okay, I'll hold you there, and then we'll go back and play the Amansia in Siena, where the story broke from. We have a video of that story which broke on July 19. Take a look.
Destroying the environment, yet gaining grounds in various mining communities in the country. Many communities have suffered a great loss from the activities of these illegal miners. The Amansia West district in the Ashanti region is suffering from the Galamsey plague as most farms and water bodies are polluted. This alarming situation has compelled some residents in the mining communities to declare war against illegal mining activities in their respective areas. Residents of Manson in Siena mobilized themselves to protest against the activities of Chinese Galamsey miners whose activities are affecting their lives. The protest, which was planned to be peaceful, ended up in an exchange of gunfire between the residents and the Chinese miners. The Chinese miners started firing warning shots to scare the protesters when they drew nearer to their site. But this angered the residents to fire back. The firing of the live bullets by the illegal miners angered the youth the more, and they threatened to take the law into their own hands if authorities do not intervene and drive the Chinese miners away from the community. Natives of Manso Nyansa are worried about the extent of damage to farmlands and water bodies by the Galamsey activity.
Just a mono basala, I'm a bravo, you see, don't be used to you, and Sana, and Grania, Zurbi, Aqua School. Time to buy my 1.5. So a man near Samson, near Yankomu, while I buy who so fast will be a Okaka, no more to you, and I'm saying, I would not even know my indi. And to a Sabasa, a bam, and this idea, yes,
That these Chinese threaten the residents with guns all the time. They have wild dogs. And when you are even going to farm, they just open the dogs for them to chase you. Again, if you look at the river, they have destroyed virtually all the rivers in the town. Now, right now, as we are speaking, it has become clear that Hanso Mining Company Limited is the brain behind all this.
The chief of Mansu Nim, Nana Opia Mensah II, denied any knowledge of the Galamsey operations in the area. The Amansai West District Police Command acted swiftly to avert any further clashes in the area.
Well, you saw that that was a story we captured from Manso Nsiana when the story broke on July 19th. So back to the studio, Mr. Mallets, I was asking why the Chinese are cited in all manner of illegal activities, and you opened by saying that perhaps we should first establish what is illegal mining. Is that necessary? Must we establish before we can confirm that the Chinese are engaged in all sorts
what is illegal mining, but did they start illegal mining? And the scale of which we are looking at the pictures right now, is it that this is the first time that we're having such, and as the experts are here, they will tell us, because this issue has been confronting even the big mining concessions. They've been complaining about encroachment on their lands before the Chinese arrived. The Chinese will be
so the Chinese only came to continue the encroachments?
My problem is singling out the Chinese.
Okay.
That's my problem. I'm not saying they are not the only ones who are doing illegal mining. And if we can establish that, then we can discuss the issue at length.
Okay. So we'll move on to you, Mr. Alhassan Atakwese.
Right.
Now, tell us, what is the genesis of this whole Amancia West problems? I mean, I'm asking this question taking cue from Mr. Mallet's answers that illegal mining didn't start with the Chinese. So what is the genesis of especially the Amancia West problem?
Okay, I think there are two main issues here. One is policy failure. In the 80s, there were reforms in the mining sector. We had two separate laws, one governing small-scale mining, another one governing large-scale mining. And unfortunately, the manner in which these laws were implemented led to what we have, what the situation that we find ourselves in now. Unfortunately, Ghana, as we sit here today, we don't have a progressive mining policy, that governs exploitation of mineral resources to the benefits of Ghanaians. So that's really the problem. Regulations that have been enacted by Parliament are not rigorous enough to make sure that some of these things can easily be curtailed. So it's a classic demonstration of how policy and regulations have failed this country, unfortunately.
Policy and regulation, that will fall into the lap of Mr. Kofi Tete. What has been the policy direction from governments, and which I believe the Mineral Commission can tell us?
Yeah, before I come to that, I would want to address an issue raised by Alhassan, that in the 80s there were two mining policies, and probably because the policies have been fused together, maybe its efficacy or its implementation
has diminished.
Yeah,
oh.
That much I beg to differ. In order to rather make the system being operative, the first, the laws he was referring to, especially on small scale mining, was purportedly made for gold. But this current law, or this current act, put small scale mining generally both for the precious and then the industrial minerals.
But does it make any difference?
Yes,
I mean, mining is mining. Okay. So what is the difference?
But the difference is initially, we were only targeting gold. That was the PNDC law 218. It specifically said small scale gold mining. But if you talk of small scale, in Ghana we classify any mining with an acreage of between 0 and 25 as small-scale mining. So therefore, there are industrial minerals which are also one, like clay, like sand, like laterites, which fall under these categories. So the law initially didn't capture these ones. So the present law rather captures all this and then makes it very expansive enough to cover all this the sector. Well, he also mentioned that there had not been any policy in place. No, it's
effective policy. Progressive policy.
We don't have that.
Say that.
We don't.
Well, what I would say is there is a draft mining policy now before Parliament.
But why has it taken us that long to get a progressive mining policy?
Policies changes with time. And mining is now moving into a different gear from probably into a more scientific whatever. So the policies that need to be put in place should stand the test of time. So it's like you cover something and then you need to also look at your environment. If I talk of environment, probably I'm talking not of Ghana, but you look outside Ghana and then look at what is happening and then see whether your policy can stand the test of time. So it's been like we pushing, we have to go back, look at it, review it, pushing, have to go back, review it. And we need also to get input from stakeholders, the NGOs, and at times, you call a forum, a platform, for people to come and put in their inputs.
And they don't turn up. And so they don't give you that input. It looks
like it's been here and there, but we've now got so far.
So we're shifting the blame every time. I mean, if there's no policy, then civil society groups should also be bearing some responsibility. That's it,
for
right?
not showing up to discuss the draft policy, which they started in 1999 and continues to be a draft. No, you see what we should.
Alassane, let me just let's bring you back. I mean, so he's saying that civil society groups have not exactly been helpful.
No, the Minerals
I need you to react specifically to that.
We have been very, very, contributory to the process. What the Minerals Commission should have done when it was established, in the 80s, was to formulate a policy, which they never did, but had a law, So what was the basis of that law? There was some, inherent policy. Clearly, if you look at the spirit of the law, it was just to safeguard and promote large-scale mining at the time. There is some wisdom in that because if you look at mining production at that time, it had dwindled. And so you needed some injection of capital. So good. But over time, the Minerals Commission should have ensured that continued exploitation of the resources were in a manner that would maximize benefits of Ghanaians. But that didn't happen. It hasn't happened. In the small-scale mining sector, for example, they, in their various, policy briefs, indicate the need to support the small-scale mining sector. That is viewed as a vehicle to enhance local enterprise development. But where has been the support? And now the Chinese are offering precisely what the government should have done all this while that it hasn't been doing. So it's largely a policy failure and lack of commitment on the part of our leaders to make sure that they regulate and support the sector.
What kinds of regulations should have been in place to ensure that the problem didn't get to the extent we saw in the video, really, where Chinese nationals are holding guns and, of course, protecting their fort? I guess they would have been ready to shoot anyone dead.
Exactly.
If they ventured into what they term their territory. How did it get to this extent? How did it get here?
Well,
I mean, it is worrying, isn't it?
If I might come in a little. The 80s that Alassane is referring to, we never had probably such extensive, shall I say, mineral exploitation because the price of gold at that time was, say around $250 to $300 per ounce. So definitely it becomes, shall I say,
less incentive?
Less is fine, that's the word, less incentive for you to mine. Now the price of gold is around 1,600 plus ounces per dollars per ounce. So you can see that, and fortunately,
and more reason why many people should go illegally.
Because our country is blessed. No. The point is, you see, the point is that Ghana is blessed with the minerals. So wherever you pan, you get gold, you got a blade of gold. So this probably serve also like, I would not say an incentive, but like, one, small scale mining or mining in general, is done for what? For livelihood. You know what it is. Because you get the minerals, you sell, and probably you get a return for that. So therefore, if you are in an environment where you might have easy access to probably minerals, then why don't you go in for mining? But what we are saying is, the Minerals Commission is saying nobody shouldn't mine. You can mine, but there are rules and regulations. The NGOs probably, I say, don't maybe visit the corridors of the Minerals Commission often, because what he is saying about probably not having, probably, should I say, a framework in place to support small-scale mining. It's not the Minerals Commission has a fund which supports cooperatives or regularized bodies of small-scale mining activities. What we say.
What do you mean regularized?
Yes, now we're talking about illegal mining.
So there is illegal mining and there is regularized illegal mining.
No. It's not regularized small-scale mining. You see, all operations which are not regularized, which are not backed with probably having a license. Let me use the term that normally we use. A license signed by the sector minister. If you don't have that and you're doing any activity winning any mineral, whether gold or industrial mineral, you are doing illegal.
So the Chinese do have a license to operate.
Had a license. The Mineral Commission never gave the Chinese any license.
So as far as you were concerned, you were not aware of the existence of Chinese nationals engaged in mining in Ghana of any form, whether illegal or regularized.
Yeah, we are aware of some who have regularized their operations in the big-scale sector.
And some of them are in Amancia West?
No. I'm talking about in the large-scale sector. The small-scale sector is solely for Ghanaians.
That's what the law says?
That's what the law says. No foreigner, be it Chinese, be it whatever, supposed to engage in small-scale mining.
Right. I'll stop you there, and then I'll go back to Mr. Mallet. I'll give you a chance. I know you want to react to Mr. Tete's comments, but I'll ask you, Mr. Mallet, when you, the Ghana-Chinese Friendship Association, when you, I don't know whether you assist Chinese professionals to come into Ghana to source work in all sectors. I guess some of it will be the mining industry. What exactly do you look out for when you are leading negotiations or friendly, maybe cordial relationships to invite Chinese people into Ghana? What do you look out for?
The problem here is the issue we're talking about now, about illegal mining. I think it's a problem that we should look at holistically.
Holistically, without focusing solely on Chinese.
Yes.
You've said that before.
Yeah, and I think we should stick to that. Because otherwise we'll deviate from the actual issue that we're talking about, the Chinese problem.
Yes, but there is a Chinese problem. You do recognize that in Amancia West.
Yes, there is a Chinese problem. Because
so I'm asking you, when Chinese miners, when you negotiate to bring Chinese miners into the country, what do you look out for?
In the first place, we don't negotiate to bring anybody into the country.
So
the Ghana-China Friendship Association is an association that is looking at solidarity through development.
Solidarity.
Through development.
Good.
That is what we...
So you are responsible for doing what? Ensuring that Ghanaian skilled laborers are able to go to China and Chinese skilled laborers are able to come to Ghana?
As a person-to-person or business-to-business. In fact, in October, from the 10th to the 20th of October, we're taking, with the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, we're taking a 40-man delegation to China, to 3 provinces, to sell Ghana. And there are opportunities in China that we can.
What are you going to sell in China? You're selling Ghana. What exactly about Ghana are you going to sell? Mining?
You see, the way you asked the question is interesting. The point about it is that we have not sat down to look at the opportunities that exist in China.
Okay.
For Ghanaians. For example, Gihok Takai. The Chinese love it. We can't even feed China with Takai. And what if it's translated into cents and dollars? You can imagine how much we're making out of that. You see, the furniture we're sitting on is from China. But you'll be surprised that the Chinese themselves will tell you it's the reverse that must happen. Because we have the best wood. If we had Chinese technology and Chinese money, we could do an export from here to China, not bring Chinese furniture to our place here, to Ghana. There are other areas like agriculture. If you talk about cassava chips, if you have the technology, now China, we can price them with technology and the money. If we can attract that, but they need this cassava chips. There are several things. If we sat down, even salt, if we sat down and work seriously, we'll realize that we can make our money, not looking at any other place. Let me not belittle the issue, but not looking at oil.
So, I mean, you are right now focusing on what opportunities exist in China for Ghanaians.
They exist. We are not taking advantage.
We're not taking advantage. What about opportunities that exist here in Ghana for the Chinese?
What we are pushing for is partnership. We want Ghanaians to partner Chinese. And I think it's time we have a kind of Ghana-China policy that will identify all these things and address them. So these problems that are springing up, these illegal things that are happening, you see, we should not be construed it. It's not a Chinese government or a Chinese policy to come and do illegal mining in Ghana.
But they're Chinese individuals.
The individuals, they don't go to their embassies.
Right.
How did they get into this Amansi West, or what we call in that place? How did they get there? Who welcomed them? Who gave them the first
that you wouldn't know, right? That your association would not
know.
No,
but how did it happen?
But
that they were able to take over?
I don't want us to focus only on for the case of the Chinese. I don't want us to focus only on illegal mining. They've been cited in other illegal activities. I read some of them in my introductory that recently, a while ago, in Anas Arimial's documentary, investigative documentary, some of them were busted for operating sex syndicates in Ghana, and these are Chinese people. So, I mean, they set up a restaurant and, you know, without a kitchen, running it as if it was a restaurant. Apparently, it was operating as a brothel. That is only one. So I'm saying that shouldn't we as Ghanaian citizens be worrying that these illegal activities, including the illegal mining, is permeating our society from the Chinese without control?
You see, we go out and sell Ghana, right? And it's a gateway to West Africa. It's a destination in itself. And everybody is hearing the good story about Ghana. Now we have oil. So everybody is coming. But what are they coming for? Profit, money, business. Whether legal or illegal.
Well, I mean, your position is not exactly clear because we're discussing the Chinese role in illegal mining.
But the point I'm trying to make here is that we focus on the Chinese, and they are here. A lot of them are here. They will come.
There are a lot of legal Chinese migrants here.
Yeah.
We must not put it out of the window
that
they are.
But what I'm saying is that the activities of the illegal ones is what the emphasis is on.
Yeah.
That is what I'm talking about. And I'm saying that it is for the law enforcement agencies to actually be up and coming, as we put it.
To make sure that they are not illegal, that their activities are.
Because China will not allow Ghanaians to go and operate illegal businesses in their country.
But we allow it.
If it's happening.
Either by policy lapses or by individual selfish people who took money and introduced the Chinese to their lands, as some of the residents have claimed, right?
And I'm saying until it became a media issue,
we didn't know the extent of the problem.
The problem.
Right, so Al-Hassan, you're hearing these arguments, and there is the discussion of policy, there is a discussion of friendly cooperation between ourselves and China, where Ghanaian skilled labor can take advantage of the opportunities that exist in China, equally as they can also fall back here and take advantage of opportunities we have here. I mean, mutual beneficial trading, for example. You have any problems with these?
No, I think China present some opportunities. You know, China has some advantages that Ghana can tap into. But before that happens, Ghana must define its priorities. What exactly she wants from China. You know, you don't sit down and allow China to come and do it to its benefit while you lose. So that absence of a policy framework where it will allow the definition of precisely what role China must play, what role Chinese equipment and Chinese capital must play within the economy is the problem. There isn't that policy framework to ensure that they are, they are playing the expected role that we look for.
And whose role should this be? The Minerals Commission or the Minerals Ministry?
The Minerals Commission, the Ministry, the ministries in charge, Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, they should ensure that there is a policy framework that, defines role for all these, because we will definitely need, some support, because, Ghana is not, we don't have everything. We have some things, we don't have others. So we have to work with other people to, exploit our resources. But there is the need for a policy framework, rigorous, with regulation. Earlier you had indicated how come we have such lax regulation. I've heard the minister several times complaining about judges who are not able to prosecute illegal miners. That is a clear demonstration that our regulation is not robust enough to deal with illegal activities, including mining. So I think this problem is a problem for Ghanaians that we need to ask our leaders, people we've elected into government, to make sure that they put in place regulation that can deal with all these problems. If you look at the impact of mining in terms of destruction of the digging holes and all that, with a large-scale mining, they need to post bonds. But with a small-scale mining, they are not supposed to post these bonds. So the EPA officials need to work with them to make sure they reclaim, which has not been working well. The last time ministers were
all boils down to
policy
and
regulation.
our country's needs. What does the laws or existing regulations say about foreigners engaging in mining, any form of mining, whether small scale, regularized mining, or large scale mining?
Well, the law is very emphatic on that. In small scale mining, the law says it is a preserve of Ghanaians. If you are not a Ghanaian, there is no way you need to get a small scale mining license. The law also talks about large scale mining, which one, whether you are a Ghanaian or a foreigner, you can apply for it.
You need to meet certain requirements.
Certain requirements.
And those requirements do not exist for small scale mining.
Well, those requirements exist, but on a smaller basis. Quite probably it might take you, let's say, $500,000 for you to start a large scale mine. A small scale mine, probably, because it's supposed to be a Ghanaian, it's supposed to be rural, maybe supposed to be in the rural areas. Maybe like a 10,000 Ghana city should be able to.
Is this emphatic? Is this emphatic?
That is why the small scale mining sector or project was created in the 80s, and it has gone through metamorphosis, and now it's become a department under the Minerals Commission. So what really matters is, well, if you Ghanaian obtain your small scale license, definitely you need to work with somebody. But what we are saying is, you can employ a foreigner. But on what basis does the foreigner work for you? Because if I go, let's say even to Togo, to go and work, what did they demand of me? My work permit. So even if a Chinese is working for you, the first probably point of call, he has to have his work permit, or he has to have his residence permit. It's not the Minerals Commission that provides that. So what we are saying is the enforcement of our rules and regulations. If we collaborate effectively, all stakeholders, everybody put his hand on deck, I think this issue of foreigners or even Ghanaians, because at a question Mr. Mallet raised an issue of probably how did illegal activities started. It was not the Chinese who started it. It started somewhere, and probably that's why we call it the Galamsey, and then the Chinese have come in and are now cashing on it. But if we try to enforce our rules and regulations, I think the Chinese will not have, and then we ourselves also become a little bit committed, a little bit, how they call it, patriotic, not allowing these foreigners to go down, because we have on records some, let me use this platform to say, some chiefs, some opinion leaders, some landowners who condone and connive with these miners. They can be Chinese or they can be whatever, and allow them to mine illegally. Because mining without the prerequisite license,
it's definitely illegal. And because the law prescribes that only Ghanaians can acquire those licenses, you are suggesting that they are in connivance with their Chinese partners and any other foreigners to conduct these businesses.
So we are looking for probably every stakeholder to be on board.
All right. So let me come to Mr. Atakwasin again. Yeah. I know I should be asking the Mineral Commission what the extent of the illegal mining problem is, but you are on the ground as a civil society group. Yeah. Tell me what the extent of the illegal mining problem is. Is it that bad?
It is quite bad. I mean, pictures we've all seen today is a clear demonstration of what's happening in various mining communities in Ghana, and it is very bad. Unfortunately, I think the question has to be to Minerals Commission, which is a constitutional body mandated, to do a number of things about mining. There's very little knowledge about small-scale mining.
About how many people are in
Precisely.
it, what the income generation is, how much they pay in taxes to
Because I have read a report which was published in 2005, which quoted a number of small-scale miners at 1 million. Today, we still say 1 million people are involved in mining.
Which
so
is
it
very
shows
misleading.
Very, very misleading that we really don't have much, information about what's happening. And I think that one important step towards solving this is some form of registration, as a first step to get to know the intensity of the problem and therefore find how.
But this has been on the drawing board for ages. I remember that in 2008, it became a major political issue when the presidential candidates visited the mining communities, promising to register illegal operators to make them legal. How is this supposed to resolve the problem, really?
The registration is still in process.
But it's not being enforced properly, I guess. Otherwise...
well, I don't understand how you say it's not being enforced.
Well, I mean, they're registering. People are registering, and yet there are no checks and balances to ensure that those who have registered are going according to the prescriptions
there are checks
of the
and
regulations.
Because for now, the Minerals Commission has set aside about 77 parcels of land solely for small-scale mining.
77.
Yes, which is
are
over,
these
over
the,
4.
Are these the only pieces of lands illegal mining are taking place on?
No, this is not illegal. This is a place that we
now
want to
let's just clarify this.
Yes.
We keep referring to illegal mining, and you keep referring to small-scale mining.
Yes.
And I know there was a press conference recently by an association calling itself Small-Scale Miners who are saying that the tagline of illegal mining is messing up their business. What is the difference between the illegal miners and small-scale miners? Do you have any distinction between them at all?
What we use to distinguish them is probably getting a license. The moment you get registered and you have a license to operate legally, then we call you a small-scale miner.
And then when you have the license, you're supposed to work on designated lands.
Designated lands.
But is this happening?
It's happening.
And that's where the ones who have registered are mining?
I think my colleague can attest to that. What is happening is these illegal activities are mostly found on other concessions which belong to large-scale mines or on restricted areas. And that's where we also have the problem. And they are also at the blind side of... See, the Minerals Commission, in order to monitor this, has 9 district offices throughout the country, spread throughout the country. Some in Bolga, some in Wa, as far as to Asankrigwa and Takwa. So that is where the registration centers are. So anybody who would want to actively legalize his concession visits the nearest Minerals Commission office to get himself regularized. Well, he talked about probably the numerical strength of this registered miners. If you can, we have a database where we can tell you we have over 1,000-something small-scale mining licenses. Now, when it comes to the actual number of people involved, that's where the problem is, because most of these miners are itinerary. You see them here today. The moment probably the profile proves a little bit, then they move to the other side.
It means the checks and balances don't work.
The systems are not efficient. It is very, very difficult. We try to put, we have regulators, we have monitors in place. But the point is this: one goes to work today, and because he goes to work for maybe for his share, he produces and then he gets his share. He either comes again or he doesn't come again. It's not like you are engaged for over a period. You can decide staying for a period, or you can decide moving from one end to the other end. So we trying our best. Now with the formation of the Small Scale Miners Association, which is a legal requirement according to Act 1703, we are trying to use them to effectively monitor these illegal activities. There is also in the Act formation of district mining committees. And we are looking at if the district mining committee, because every district assembly is supposed to form a district mining committee.
Are these not all talk shops?
No,
Things
they are-
we've been hearing over
We have
and over
started some.
again.
There are
and
some
the
in
problem
operation.
still
There are some in
exists.
operation. If you go to the Telesin Dam, it's very effective there. If you go to the Takwan Swahili area, it's very effective there. We are trying to make sure that all, and we have over 110 district assemblies. You know, so the whole thing is sensitization and education. We are trying to put this in place. The moment this gets in place, with the collaboration of the district mining committees and then the small scale miners association, who have now taken on the role of making sure that they marginalize the illegal miners, we think we are in the fight and we're going to win the fight.
Mr. Atakwesin, are these measures working?
Well, that's the report we've been hearing. But if you look at what's happening, I think it's right to doubt what's happening. But I think we also need to look at some other issues regarding regulating the sector. I think even though the Minerals Commission has a big role to play, security forces in this country are equally responsible to make sure that they maintain peace and order, that they enforce the law. But if you see the footage that we saw today, what is the police doing about it? I mean, we know that they've put some people under arrest and taken a number of steps. But how rigorous is that step, that they just took? It's important that we investigate that also to make sure to what extent are the police forces and possibly the military as well, because some of these things, borders on national security, are intervening to make sure they arrest the problem. So we need, but what's important here is that law and order alone will not solve this problem. I mean, if the police decides, is very much committed and decides to run all these people into jails, well, we're putting them. So we need to go beyond law enforcement and make sure that we have a policy, a humane policy that addresses all these problems. And that's where I would want to draw attention of our
Have you made
viewers.
any suggestions to the
yes, we
Minerals
have. We have.
Commission?
Just
What
last
suggestions have you made?
That they should adopt a policy that, first of all, recognizes the relevance of the small-scale mining sector as a vehicle for local enterprise development. If you come from that angle, rather than what Mr. Ito was just saying, that it's a livelihood activity or something of that sort, you put yourself in a different position and therefore prepare yourself to solve the various problems and therefore support the sector as well. So that's an important suggestion. But we've also highlighted that there is an ongoing continental reforms. The African Union has adopted an African mining vision, which has far-reaching and important tenets for all these aspects of mining, particularly the small-scale mining sector. If you look at the vision and then the action plan, which has been adopted by ministers of responsible for mining, I think that what we have to do is just to domesticate this mining vision and make sure that we address our problems with it.
Well, Mr. Henry Mallet, I'll come to you. I haven't spoken to you in a while. You raised the issue earlier that as a country we could be encouraging capital from China to engage in large-scale mining instead of small-scale mining. How will we do that?
The Chinese have a philosophy. They say build roads and profits will come rolling in. We don't sit in Ghana and get the money coming in. There's a lot of money in China, and the whole world knows that. You don't have to convince anybody about that. The technology is also over there. We need to go and attract them. It used to be government-to-government relations that have been existing the past 60 years. But today, they themselves believe that it should be person to person or people to people.
And person to person is what is causing us the problem by the illegal Chinese miners engaging in small-scale mining.
That is unfortunate.
Yes.
So what we need to do...
who should be blamed for this unfortunate incidents?
I wouldn't apportion blame. What I want to say is when I say I wouldn't apportion blame, because I'm looking at the brighter side of the picture.
You are looking about mutual cooperation.
I am looking at that,
mutual
and I
benefits.
believe that the benefits that are out there outweigh what we're talking about today. And I'm saying that if we encourage proper Chinese capital and technology to flow into Ghana, the results, what experiences we are having today, wouldn't be existing.
Has your association discussed recent times the issue of this illegal mining problem?
We discussed when the issue of the traders being removed from the market.
You did.
We did discuss. We we had discussions. We met with the Chinese ambassador. We met with the task force, and we met with others, formal and informally.
And what were the consensuses
and
that came up?
The consensus is that if we will not condone illegal business, but we should not victimize those who are doing legitimate business. And I think the task force even recognized that. So they've given those who are legitimately doing business in Ghana but are not supposed to be in the market area a 3 months grace period to relocate. And I think that sort of a dialogue is taking place and it's working.
Right. We'll come to you for your reaction on some of the comments we've received from our audience on Facebook. This one from Kofi in Takwa. He says that the Minerals Commission collect huge sums of money from concession owners the Chinese would have shot to kill because they paid these huge sums for the concession. It's a shame. And then this one from Evans Jante says, we the natives here are not happy with the emergence of Chinese galamsey operators on our land. We're hoping to rebel since huge cocoa farms will be destroyed without any appreciable compensation to their owners. This is actually from Robert in Samra Boy. He is saying that the natives here are not happy about the emergence of Chinese galamsey operators. And Eric Cheneby says, you see, we live in a country where our leaders have sold our birthright to foreigners. Do you think any Ghanaian can go to China to engage in these illegal trade and mining? Most of our university graduates are unemployed, but yet these Asians have taken over our local businesses. I don't blame them. Those who are to enforce the laws are now beggars before these foreigners for their daily bread. I'm sorry, it is our generation who are experiencing this. Jinyami Kobia Ochiri says that sometimes I wonder what Ghanaians have done to Chinese people come to Ekimamponuya and verify how they have destroyed our lands. Can we do the same in their countries? The NDC government have pampered them enough. It's time we show them the exit. Reynolds Akwesi Pepera also writes that please go to Kwabibrim district and see how River Brim is damaged by these galamsey people. Boklo, Mimi, Gertrude. It's not only the Chinese that are doing illegal mining. Other foreigners are also into galamsey. I blame the local chiefs because they sell the lands to the whites who employ our locals to work for them for peanuts while they lodge in the best hotels, eat the best of foods and enjoy our women. Well, we don't have any evidence of those. Some of them were just in for holidays, but we believe you and me, we pass our airports to and fro without being questioned. Ghana, well, we believe they pass through our airports without being questioned. I guess that was his saying. And Ganaba Jr. says that the Chinese are not only destroying our lands in the name of mining, but doing all sorts of things from tax evasion to illegal stay because they have compromised all our officials from immigration, national security, tax officials. The earlier we do something about it, the better. This is from Ganaba Jr. Kwabena Boateng Yeboah says, if Minerals Commission is saying that they have not empowered anyone to mine at Amansia West, both nationals and foreigners, then their boss should resign from his position on grounds of non-performance. People should be up and doing and account for their fat salaries. We cannot waste the taxpayers' money on non-performing managers. It is no news that mining has been ongoing in Amansia West for more than 2 years. Oh, Kwabena, the story from Minerals Commission is that they have not empowered the Chinese illegally. I think this is reacting to an earlier comment from one of those on Facebook. I still go on. Bright Mensa Lumo says, I think the Chinese are seriously disrespecting our sovereignty as a nation. You cannot imagine Ghanaians openly firing guns at Chinese in China. The laws of the country must be made to take its full course. Saki Ben Benasco. the way we are managing the affairs of this country in this 21st century, I wonder what we are leaving behind for the 22nd century generation. We don't care about our own heritage. Where are the authorities, the Mineral Commission, the police, the politicians, etc.? Whose duty is it to ensure that the laws of the land are adhered to? Oh, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, come back from your grave and rescue us and rescue Ghana from this mess. And the last page, Papaya Jesse Berima Vanity, writes that the government should do anything possible to make peace prevail in Amansie. We are solidly behind them. Papaya again says the backbone of our country is being destroyed by those Chinese who have developed highly in technology. Oh, God help us. Chris Yao Nineveh says that, for me, mining in this country has made the nation worse off and impoverished thousands, if not millions of lives. We sign concessions contracts that give us peanuts. Then the mining companies deprive the local people of their livelihoods by driving them off their farmlands, polluting their sources of drinking water, and killing fishes, and now mushrooms on which they depend on to supplement their food. As if all of that was not enough, now we have gun-wielding Chinese illegal miners who have the audacity to fire at our people for demonstrating to protect their lands and environment. God save us. And please kindly tell Mr. Mallet not to deviate from the topic, the Chinese problem, and tackle the topic objectively. Why is the man defending the Chinese? Can he go to China to dabble in illegal mining? Edem Atiase says, ask Henry why he is defending the Chinese if they are doing the wrong things here in Ghana. Edem, I heard your message. I'll put it to Mr. Mallet. And then Kwabena Miriku says the Chinese are pests and we don't have to entertain them in Ghana. You heard some of these comments, some are very harsh. I mean, describing the Chinese as pests and etc. are a bit too harsh and uncalled for, really. But the bottom line of these comments suggests that people are concerned about this problem. And if we do not ensure that our laws work to protect ourselves and protect the Chinese themselves also in Ghana, we could be heading the wrong way. Mr. Atakwese.
Yeah, I mean, I would strongly support a view expressed there that if the Minerals Commission is claiming that it's not empowered anybody to mine where the mining is going on, then the head of the Minerals Commission must be questioned.
Must be made to resign, for example.
Possibly. You know, if you look at what's happening, there is a need to investigate some of these things. It's not only the Minerals Commission, but there are several governmental agencies that are responsible. What is the EPA doing? Environmental protection. You know, it's their
seeing the extent of pollution.
What is the
damage
police service doing about some of these things? You know, we need to ask a lot of questions about what our institutions are doing, our mandated institutions to protect ourselves and our environment doing about these. They are doing very little. And I think that the blame should also be shared by the politicians who are supposed to provide the policy framework to ensure.
And that's exactly what Henry Mallet was saying, that we should tackle this problem holistically rather than narrowing down on illegal mining, for example. Or you think beyond illegal mining, there are other serious illegalities that are being engaged in by other foreign nationals apart from Chinese?
No, I think we need to go beyond the China issue
factor,
and then look at the illegal mining holistically and look at how we can, address. There are a lot of problems there. As some people were indicating, that there are some chiefs who are giving out lands, and then the Chinese or whoever the lands are being given to tend back to pick, locals, who are not well paid and all that. It goes beyond that. We need to really put ourselves together and address these problems. They are very, very important issues.
Mr. Tete, we need to put ourselves together and address this problem. You heard the comments from some of our viewers that if you have not given concessions out, you haven't given licenses, and yet these illegal mining activities are going on that scale, then somebody should be going home. Somebody should be taking the blame.
Well, I rather look at that as very unfortunate, because the Chief Executive of Minerals Commission sits in Accra. What he's saying is, he's not saying there are no licenses at Amansie West, but the particular place, the Nsania, which we now is the bone of discussion now, the Minerals Commission has not given anybody any license to operate. Well, the Minerals Commission is of the view that this illegal money issue is a national issue now, but its solution can easily be found at the local levels. Now, when the Atakwesen was speaking, or when some of these comments talked about chiefs, in their own way, giving lands to people to mine illegally. If someone approaches the chief, and the chief also just allow the person to mine illegally, how would the chief executive officer at the Minerals Commission in Accra get to know about this? And unless this gets to such a dimension.
But should he not know if the systems work?
There are districts.
There are district offices.
District
I mean, he doesn't sit in Accra and manage this all by himself.
Are also few and far between.
I mean, it looks vague to suggest that sitting in Accra, he cannot do his job well.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that he cannot do his job well. What I'm saying is, you see, where the operation is going on is just very far from, even the district office in Donkwao is far from this very area. It's about 3-hour drive. When we asked our this officer to go and find out exactly what was happening, it took about 3 hours before he got there. See, so the question we need to ask ourselves, like I'm saying, how did these unfortunate foreigners get there?
But you have to answer that question.
That's why we are investigating, so that we know who are involved, because they don't just fly straight away. Somebody leads them there, and that's why the police are investigating to tell us exactly what it is.
This
and
has
whoever.
Sure.
This has been happening for several years now. It's not just yesterday.
It didn't happen on July 19th.
That you are saying that
they have investigated. The point is this:
has the commission and other agencies
done to resolve
that
this?
is why we are saying, in order to curb these illegal mining activities, the Minerals Commission is setting aside place designated solely for small scale mining.
And is this functional? That's
It's
the question
functional.
I asked you earlier.
And now,
all the
7
ones
of
you've
those areas
registered
have been geologically investigated. You see, what's happening is now we want to make sure that small scale mining is done effectively and very efficiently.
And legally.
And legally. The legal aspect is what we've been saying since 1989.
Right, I have a couple of our comments. We don't have a lot of time, and I have some of your comments on Facebook. I love to read them. This one from Ejakwesi from Esiakwa says that, Steve, you've made my day. Mining is a major problem in Ghana. When Kibi Goldfields director with one Dr. Bugri and Roxwell Redu collected over 80,000 Ghana cedis from the locals of Esiakwa in the eastern region to help them work under the youth in mining module of the NYEP, which is non-existent. Can the man from Minerals Commission explain more on these? Well, these allegations we cannot substantiate, so we'll better not put them out. And Kojo Jesse from Takrady says, the Ghana-China Friendship Association representative is disappointing. I expect him and his association to condemn the Chinese activities, that's what he's writing, at Amansia West, since they are operating illegally. I also have problems with civil society organizations whose only attention is focused on large-scale mining operations, but has little focus on illegal miners who are destroying the environment. This is from Kojo Jesse, and this one has no, this is anonymous. He says that Galamsey and illegal mining is not stopping, because concessions are owned by big men in our country. And this one from Chinse in Bolga says, the illegal mining in Ghana will continue until the Minerals Commission stops sporting. Illegal mining are destroying lands and properties. This is from Sami Ayamfuri. And Thomas Boateng Latte says, who in Ghana can tell me where in China a foreigner can hold a gun, let alone shoot? Do you know the number of people China executed last year for wrongdoing? Here they are living like owners of our land. The police should shoot to kill. Well, this is very harsh and unfortunate if they don't leave us alone. I'll stop there. And I take your reaction. You heard somebody saying that he's disappointed at your stance. Perhaps you're speaking too favorably for the Chinese.
I would just say that if you have a case of the hawk and the chicken, sometimes you should cry for the hawk also, not the chicken all the time.
All right,
the point I'm trying to make here is that
quickly, we don't have much time. Yeah.
Ghana must look at the relationship between the two countries. We are trying to becloud the healthy relation that we could grow by looking at these activities of these individuals, the activities of the individuals.
And regularize the activities.
What is
make
happening,
sure the laws work.
Everything must be regularized and they must work.
Okay.
We will not we will not accept or condone illegal mining.
That's
in
the
any part
position
of the
from
country.
your
Yes.
association,
Which we will
regardless of
not.
whether they are Chinese or
Or
from
not, yeah.
anywhere. Mr. Atakwason, your final word.
Precisely. Somebody had mentioned that CSOs focus more on large-scale mining and do nothing about small-scale mining.
But that's not true.
It's not true.
Right.
But it's true that we focus more on large-scale mining, and rightly so, because the policy in Ghana operating only prioritizing large-scale mining. That's why you have them producing 80% of 75% of our gold output. So it's rightly so that we focus more on them, because if you look at the quantum of wealth the large-scale miners are taken out of this country, you will marvel.
It's amazing.
But
Mr. Tete,
but we are not
I'll
quiet
take your
about
final word.
small-scale
Is
mining.
this problem going to go away? Yes or no?
Yes, it will go. While there's
will
no
go
single
away.
solution, yes, to these challenges, deepening stakeholder, consultation and engagement is key to solving this
It's key
problem.
to solving.